I've been sitting a lot in contemplation of what power is. Human power. And in doing that, have contemplated intention versus will and many other things. Trying to just logically think to myself, where is the source of human power? Now, I'm not an adept in a lot of stuff. In some cases, I'm a jack of all, master of none, working towards mastery, working towards attaining adepthood in some of this stuff. And to a large degree, a lot of it's just a whole lot of knowledge I got running around in my head that I'm not quite sure how to apply or do anything with. So some would say, what the hell good is all that knowledge doing you if you can't apply it? I get it. I'm still working on it. But I share things that I see along my journeys. When I put stuff together, light bulbs go off to help engage other people or to help to stimulate other people to think in a way that they may not have otherwise. One of the things that I've seen in the process of contemplation of power, the source of human power, is that there is an awful lot of people who have studied the occulted arts, the occulted crafts, the mystery school stuff that go into magic. And a lot of them go into black magic, the left-hand path, the dark side as it's called, keeping in mind both sides lead to the same place. And one of the things that, and getting further into the point that I'm trying to make here about the source of human power, or at least one of them, one of the ways that we can wield profound amounts of power. And it may seem trivial at first, but when you really start to think about this, oh my God. And there's a reason why most of this information has been occulted, hidden from us, veiled. Because if the masses had the power, the knowledge and or information that it took to develop real power, the jig would be up, the game that we've all been experiencing would be over as far as this bullshit construct man has created for us that's kept us all trapped and under its thumb and like with its boot on our throat. So what is that source of power I'm referring to? I'm not purposefully holding it back. It's my way my mind works and I'm just dumping this shit out. It's sex. Think about this for a second. Number one, how much has this society, and I mean societies across the world, put the old kibosh on sex? Tabooized it, if that's really a word. Tabooized the hell out of it so that we don't talk about it. That it's this thing people are ashamed of. Yet it's the source of our greatest power. When a man and a woman, as nature intended it, come together and under the typical pie in the sky scenario that probably most of us believe should be the way it is, when a man and a woman come together in love and create life, we have the power of a God within us. I have the seed. The woman has the egg. We come together. We put our energy, together, and we create life. I would argue that one of the biggest sources, and I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying this, so there's something to this. This is resonating with me. One of the biggest sources of human power is sex. And they have tabooized the shit out of it to prevent you and everyone else from doing the deep dive. And what's really made this light bulb go off in my head is how much the black arts study and practice sex magic. Now, this isn't to say that sex magic is a bad thing at all. But what I've noticed is that on the left-hand path, I haven't seen this a whole lot yet, anyway, on the right-hand path. They use the power of their sexual energy to create, to harness. Sex magic was leveraged by Aleister Crowley. Sex magic is utilized by a lot of those Luciferian Satanistic people. Now, while they are absolutely, or at least it would seem like, they're using that power for not benevolent purposes, that they're using it because they've recognized that there's power in it. And as I've said in other videos that I've done, you start developing power, it really depends on your moral compass. How you choose to wield it. So, to say that sex magic is all black stuff, left-hand path stuff, I think that's casting judgment on the fact that they're on the left-hand side. I'm not doing a really good job of articulating this. I would like to be more concise, but when you think about that, and you think about how, I don't even know if this is a word, but I think you guys know what I'm getting at. Sometimes I'm a little vocabularily limited or challenged, that they have tabooized the shit out of this sex thing and made it so that we think it's dirty, we're ashamed. Think about it. People are ashamed to be fucking naked. We're born naked. I mean, there's a reason for clothes. You want to keep your butt crack off of seats and, all that stuff. There's some obvious reasons why we would clothe ourselves, but why in the fuck are we so embarrassed of our bodies? Breasts, balls, tits, asses, why? It's as natural as it gets. Something has tabooized this for us. I wish I had a more intellectually rooted word for this thing I'm trying to explain that's been done. And I would suggest to you that all of that has been done purposefully, willfully, deliberately, to prevent the vast majority of people to diving into the power of the sexual energy. When I've studied aspects of Gnosticism, aspects of the black arts, and I've seen this in Tantra and in other stuff that would be considered maybe more the white stuff, the right-hand path, that when you harness your sexual energy, you can use it to create. We're not taught about the power that's contained within the fluids because it's so taboo, it's dirty. Sexual fluids. For a man, his semen, and for a woman, I don't know the specific word, but they have ejaculate. There's liquids and fluids associated for the female as well. Think about this. Think about a time in your life where you got all worked up because you were with somebody else of the opposite sex. You got all worked up and you thought it was going to happen and it didn't. For whatever reason. The kids came in the room, mom came home, whatever. And you, despite the fact that you were about to, you couldn't have sex. And you just had all that energy inside of you, that sexual energy, you were just like seething almost. You were just like busting at the seams with, think about that. Think about that. And then the way we're wired, give it 5 minutes and find a quiet spot and you go and boom, boom, boom and hump like bunnies and get your thing off. And yeah, it feels great. And we've been instigated to continuously do that. Number one, the sexual energy, think about it. You can take a nap, a power nap. Even some women can. After you have a massive orgasm because it's expelling so much of your energy, your power. When you retain this energy within you, it just does amazing things. I've worked with this in the past. I'm not as disciplined on it as I should be, have been in recent months, and it's what brought it to the forefront of my mind to drop for you guys to begin to consider. This society has conditioned a lot of the young folks, and even some of the older folks, that, masturbation, go ahead, masturbate. And how many people, use porn and are just dumping out their sexual energy, ejaculating for women, however, that process works for them, all this stuff that we're doing, dumping the fluids, dumping the energy, disempowering ourselves, relieving ourselves of the power that we do have. Contemplate that for a second. And how much guys that masturbate, for instance, are constantly casting their seed, the very source of the power that they have within them to create life. And if you're not in the act of creating life and that seed is retained in you, the power of it, the energy of it, the body will begin to recycle that stuff. And the energy within that seed within you as a male will be reabsorbed back into your body. And there's this process that goes on that, interestingly enough, we're not told about. Gee, I wonder why that would be. And because I am a guy, I know a little bit more about the guy side. Not that I'm fully knowledgeable about the guy side, but I know more about that than the woman side. I've never studied that. Don't have a girlfriend for a couple years now, so it's like not even been on the forefront of my mind to even contemplate that shit. I'm a guy, I'll figure my shit out, and if I meet somebody who's knowledgeable about this, hopefully she's got her side figured out, and we can do some work together. I've learned that in Gnosticism, how do I say this? When you're lucky enough to have a significant other of the opposite sex, or, maybe if you're male and male and female, of your partner has the opposite energy, because I think that matters more, that it's the energy within us. So if you've got two gay guys, as long as one has that positive energy and one has that negative energy, I guess would be a good way of putting it. And with two gals, same thing. One's more masculine, one's more dominant, because you're dealing with the male and the female, the polarities in energy. And the point that I'm trying to make is that when those two are of enough of a like mind that they can together work with that sexual energy, harness it with the power of the positive and the negative, and begin to rise the Kundalini. I mean, you can rise this energy up through your body, yourself. But when you can combine that, but if I do it myself, I'm rising the positive and negative within inside me, but I'm still largely that negative energy force, not negative bad. I'm sorry, positive, not positive energy good, like just positive like a battery, positive plus negative, the electrical connotations is what I'm referring to. When a woman can do that by herself, it's great. But when a man and a woman can come together and practice this together as supposedly it was intended, think about what we can do. And when you also combine the resonant energy, the resonance of love into that equation, we're not talking about Tantra so that we can have the best orgasm of our mind, of our life. Through working, for instance, with tantric practices, that stuff's going to happen. It's more about using the energy, the source of our power as humans, recognizing what and where is the source of our power and beginning to harness it, retain it, unscrew our mind programming that tells us it's good to continue to masturbate, it's good to continue to dump out that energy, it's good to continue to dump out those fluids, and begin practicing it. Now, be very, very, very aware of how profoundly powerful sexual energy is. If that energy is retained and it is not used to create, it becomes destructive. Period, paragraph, end of story. You have to harness that energy. You have to utilize it. Think about it. Without this knowledge, when you get to that point where I was explaining, where you're all worked up and you just busting it, you really want to get rid of it, right? You really want to expel that energy because it's so intense. There are practices where the man and the woman, excite each other and work each other up to a point of and then begin a practice of anking that energy back into their body or keeping it. Maybe they're having an orgasm, but literally at the time they're anking it back into their body. So they're expelling it, but pulling it right back in. I'm telling you, people, we have been disempowered on levels that are so grotesque, it's not even funny. And I've said in other videos, I can't see where I can see the obvious effects of where the negative ones are impacting this human experience, and it's hard to find the good impacts aside from the fact that we're still here, maybe that it's saved us from a complete extermination. Maybe another one of the good things is that it drops little nuggets on those of us that at certain times to say it to other people. And I subscribe to the Tupac philosophy. I may not change the world by any stretch, but I might spark the mind that will. That's why I do this. And maybe things are dropping out there. Good stuff is dropping nuggets on me and saying, here, this might be a pretty good point, because humanity is largely powerless, at least in our current state. Therefore, we need to begin to be aware of things that we can do to begin to collectively step into our power as humans, as a species, as a race of beings. And our sexual power, our sexual energy, is probably one of the biggest sources of power for the human. I'm telling you, people, there's a reason why the black magic arts use sex magic, because there's so much freaking power in it. They're just choosing to use that power for what most of us would consider to be not so good purposes. Amazing. Another interesting thing, and this is not to be fucked with, and I use that word specifically to grab your attention. This is not to be fucked with. Blood, the power of blood, the energy within blood in creation. It's crazy. I don't know enough about it to go on a deep dive, but I've heard about it, and I've never even messed with it because I ain't fucking with it until I learn more and know more. But, we're conditioned to believe that these blood rituals and blood this is all the dark magic stuff. But wait a minute. The blood in my body belongs to me. It is the source of my life, one of the sources of my life. Could I potentially leverage the power of my own blood in the power of creation, in the power of doing something beneficial? It's lots of questions I have about a lot of this stuff. I have years of learning to do. But in the process of stepping through this, I figured I'd just dump it out to people. Roll it around in your mind. Contemplate this stuff. Look at the stuff that they've been doing to us to coax us, so to speak, or influence us to continuously dump out our energy. And when you look at how prolific porn is, it's amazing. So not only are we in the scenarios where people are masturbating a lot, not only are we disempowering ourselves by dumping out that energy and dumping out those fluids, we're also feeding something else. We're feeding. Something else is literally feeding off of that energy. To the best of my comprehension of how it works, sexual energy that is rooted in love does not provide them a source of nourishment. I don't know if any other sexual energy that's not rooted in love falls in that category. I do know that perverse sexual energy does. There is ways that you can work with, and you might find this to be weird or twisted or whatever, but where people have worked with, males or females, just masturbation to the point where they're bringing themselves to the brink, working that energy up and not allowing themselves to climax. But they have specific techniques and tactics that they use to then raise that energy, stop before you climax, before you expend the energy, before you expel the fluids, and then harness that energy. We can rise our own energy. We can use it. We can do, when you do breathing exercises, you can raise your energy and feel yourself getting really hot. A lot of yogic practices help you to increase your energy, and a lot of that ties into tantra and sexual energy. I think these are the sources, some of. I still have more to explore in this area, but these are sources of profound power for the human. And when you think about that and get to a point where you accept that, okay, there's some truth in that. And then look at the concerted effort that has been done to influence the minds of men and women to have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of sex or masturbate a lot, and a lot of people's lives aren't happy, joyful. And some people will justify in themselves, well, the only good feeling I get is when I get a good orgasm. And honestly, as pathetic as it sounds, I was there too. People get there through these various stages of our emotional stuff, and you can't fall victim to that, is what I'm trying to say. And recognize that just keeping that energy within you for the course of 2 to 3 weeks, not actually engaging and allowing yourself to do that, and keeping those fluids and that energy in you, all of a sudden your mind will start to shift just because the energy inside of you starts to increase. It's amazing what we don't know